Welcome to Long Live Baseball. Today on the program, we have a standings, there's false advertisement going on apparently on the program today. The Cardinals suffer one of the more excruciating losses they blow a 5-run lead in the 7th. Anyway, we'll talk about it. It's a weird year, man. Jordan Walker's back. The Cubs are in 4th place, not 5th place, and
Cubs win.
And Mike Jones is showing you that on his phone. Mike, how's it going today? How are you doing?
Cubs win. Hey, Cubs are on a West Coast trip and in San Diego, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later too. But doing well. And you?
I'm doing as bad as well as a Cardinals fan can do these days. I mean, I don't really know what to say anymore. It's just a strange year. I think I've said it many, many times. I said it on my Cardinals news and updates video, which you should check out after this show, where I talk about, how Jordan Walker, it made sense for them to call him up because of the need at the position. But really, if you look at his numbers in the minor leagues, it was kind of a strange time to do it. I mean, I guess they needed him. So, and he got a hit last night, I think at least one. So it's I don't know what to say, man. We'll get into it, but it's just a weird year, and it's like the same old, Mike. I don't know quite else what to say.
Yeah, right. It's like the Cubs get swept by the Cincinnati Reds, who everybody's talking about. Look out for the Reds because they're going to the top of the National League Central. They're a confident bunch. They're both, kind of going on and on about that. And then I look at the standings and I'm like, well, we're a half game back from the Reds. And St. Louis is a game and a half back from the Reds. And in last place, I might add, au contraire, the title of the show today on your YouTube channel. But, and you're getting, the Cardinals are out there getting beat by Pittsburgh, who I can't tell you how many times over the last, how many shows have we done? We've done 100 shows. We've done 100. I know we had a birthday party for 100 shows or something.
Maybe 100 videos. Maybe we just hit the 200 video mark, but we put out a video just about every day because of your MLB Beat the Streak.
Oh yeah. So show wise, like Long Live Baseball live show wise, we're somewhere around 100, maybe somewhere in there. Anyway, my point is, how many times have you gone out on your porch and just railed about the Pittsburgh Pirates being horrible, terrible team, with no ownership problems and all of that, and they're in second in the division and beating St. Louis 7-5 last night?
Yeah, I mean, it's baseball, anything can happen, but I mean, it's what I didn't expect was, I mean, obviously Pittsburgh's going to win some games. But what I didn't expect was that, I guess, what are we, 55, 58 games into the season now, that the Cardinals would be in last place, that their defensive metrics would go into the toilet, that their starting pitching would continue to be bad this deep into the season, that their bullpen would seemingly be inconsistent, and Ryan Helsley would have blown 4 saves, and that at times, the offense, and don't get me started on using the whole 19, 18, whatever games in a row they played as an excuse. Oh, they're tired. They're Major League Baseball players who should be accustomed to playing just about every day. And you have the fact that Trace Barrera, the Cardinals, signed a catcher to replace Yadier Molina. They spent $87.5 million total to replace Yadier Molina as a catcher. And for some unknown reason, they're keeping a third catcher on the roster named Trace Barrera, who has no business being a catcher. Now, I don't know if they sent him down in lieu of Jordan Walker or not, but if I'm being honest, because I got busy yesterday after that announcement, but they've had Trace Barrera on this team for far too long, and I really don't know. It's hard, and that's scratching the surface, Mike, of the season that the St. Louis Cardinals are having.
Well, but in the good news department for you in the catching world, Contreras was 0 for 4 yesterday with a walk and is batting .214. So
Yeah,
there's that.
he's definitely not he's but Contreras does have some blame for that, but I mean they've definitely messed with them. They've definitely gone from, oh yeah, you're the catcher, you're not the catcher, oh you're the catcher sometimes. And Contreras just seems like a guy who is very emotional, very plays with his heart on his sleeve, so to speak. But I mean, he definitely needs to be better, and I think he has the potential to be better. But yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like this ball club, we keep using the word plan. I'm really interested to see what the plan is. Now, there's some things going right. Um, you know, Nolan Gorman looks like a star in the making. That's going right. I think you found an outfielder in Lars Nootbaar. I think he's in the future plans. He has to be. Brendan Donovan's struggling, but he has potential. And obviously, you've got the two corner pillar pieces. And of course, the crazy thing about all this, and this might be a good time to transition, is on MLB's website. There is a article that I just put in the show sheet just before the show. It's which teams can still make the postseason who have started off bad. The Cardinals are on this list, and somehow, even though they're 25 and 33, they have a 38.2% chance to make the playoffs. And I don't know if that's the favorite amongst all the NL Central teams or not, but that certainly seems like a decent percentage for being in last place, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, all of those percentages, man. They mean to me, and I don't know if it's just this point in the season or if it's going to be all year long. It seems like the more that it's going to sound weird, that the more that I follow baseball and really dig into baseball and see baseball and watch it and really, really become more of an informed fan than just a casual fan. The more that I do that, the more that I realize that all that stuff, none of it matters. When the Cubs can go out and get swept by the Cincinnati Reds, and then in the very next series take 2 out of 3 from Tampa Bay, the best hitting and strongest team in baseball, all of these prognostications and all of those things, none of it matters. I mean, nothing. That's not a Metallica song, is it? But it just doesn't, right? I mean, it doesn't seem to matter. It's like playing when you play Beat the Streak, for example. Joe DiMaggio's 56 game streak. I don't think it'll ever be beaten. I think that is one record that will never go away because of how the game has changed. It just, having a guy get up to the plate and do that today is tougher than ever. When we're playing Beat the Streak, you get to pick your batters each day. And it's been 20 years since they started playing this game, and no one's beat it. It's crazy. We just had a guy, Mr. Intangible, that had a 40-game streak. He was taking Freddie Freeman day in and day out. Freeman had like a 20-some game streak. He went 0 for 5 yesterday. It's just there's an unpredictability about baseball that you can put whatever percentage you want to on this team's going to make the playoffs. Go ahead and talk about that all you want. It means absolutely nothing come the end of the season. But, to me.
Well, I wonder what the Cardinals that year, remember they won 17 games in a row, and then a year later, Mike Schultz getting fired. But anyway,
Right.
I digress. I wonder what their percentage was to make the playoffs before they went on that 17-game winning streak. I
Right.
don't think they were winning the division at that point in time. And I think this is a larger, more philosophical question about, the St. Louis Cardinals management. And I think you've seen it the last 3 or 4 years. I really question now I've said it before, and I don't think it's a controversial statement to say. I mean, do they want to, if you asked them point blank, they would say, yes, of course we want to win the World Series. But we've heard time and time again, obviously this team needs starting pitching, right? I mean, it's gotten better, but they're 20th in the MLB and ERA, and they, Michaelis has been pitching better. But and so is Flaherty. But I do want to talk about Adam Wainwright for a second, because this is bad, man. This is bad. This is not good. His fastball's averaging like 86 miles an hour. Yeah, he still has the curveball, and they paid this guy $17.5 million. And I just thought to myself, like a team that never spends money on wouldn't go out and actually get, a Max Shirt, not interested, but they've been interested in David Price, and they're always interested in a trade, but they're not interested in bringing in a high price free agent, all this stuff, unless it's Willson Contreras to bring him in, not to catch, but to catch, like all this stuff, right? But you sign Wainwright. At some level, are you more worried about putting butts in the seats than you are winning games? I think this is where we are with the St. Louis Cardinals.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Wow, that's quite a statement coming from you. I mean, from the guy who constantly over and over talks about where they are in attendance figures. That's been something that's been a high point of contention for you and your Cardinals. Aren't you concerned about how many butts are in the seats? I mean, hey, doesn't matter what the Cardinals are doing on the field, they're still going to fill the stadium. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that argument about the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs aren't going to get any better until people just don't buy tickets and don't go support this team and blah, blah, blah.
I've heard that from Cardinals fans too. But Cardinals fans, like, the thing about it too is
I don't cotton to it. I don't. You don't. Go ahead.
You don't? Okay. Well, I was just going to say that I think it's interesting that argument, because if you think about who the Cardinals fans are, a lot of these plans, and I tweeted out, and somewhat facetiously, I don't know if I'm saying that word right, but because I kind of knew the truth, is that a lot of these plans, you have families from all over the Midwest that are Cardinals fans, and they make these plans. Like, I'm making plans with my family to go to a Cardinals game, and we plan it months in advance because we have to. So just because the Cardinals are bad doesn't necessarily mean that the attendance is going to drop off right away, because you have all these families coming in from out of town, and they're not changing their plans because the Cardinals are bad. They're still going to go to the game. They're still going to come and buy souvenirs, and they're still, it's still going to happen. And my point is this: I think the Central being bad is ultimately bad for the Cardinals, and ultimately it's bad for baseball, I think, because over the past several seasons, I think you've just seen this contentedness, and I think it's been there for a while, where Mozeliak would say, "Oh, well, we didn't want to give up," and I think you saw it with Sean Murphy. I think it happened again this year. It's like, oh, we didn't want to give up Newt Barr and Donovan and Walker and Wynn, and he lists off all these prospects that we were going to have to give away for Sean Murphy. And then you see the Sean Murphy trade actually go down, and you think to yourself, really? There was no room for any negotiation in that at all, huh? Like, you don't think the Athletics look at the Athletics right now. You don't think that they would have negotiated with you. You think the Athletics drew that line in the sand? I'm calling BS on that. I'm calling that you just didn't want to give up any of your prized possessions for whatever reason to make this team better. Because ultimately now, I mean, in hindsight, and I know hindsight's 2020, you're looking at that situation now. The Sean Murphy way to go was the way to go. If you could have done that, not for obviously Brendan Donovan and Lars Nootbaar and, 3/4 of the Cardinals franchise that Mozeliak claims they would have had to give up. I think there's just a lot of BS coming out of the front office, in regards to that. I don't know if I trust anything that really that guy says about trade negotiations. I don't know. It just, because you've had a problem, and it's been an obvious problem for 3 years now, and you've done really just the bare minimum to solve it at the trade deadline. And so far, I mean, and he's talking about how they're not going to be sellers at the trade deadline, how they're going to be, that he thinks they're going to be in contention. And frankly, I agree, because I still believe that this team is good. They're just so, it's such a weird team that I don't really know what to say. I feel like an insane person, just keep repeating the same things over and over and over again and expecting different results. But this team definitely has pieces, and when the pieces come together, I mean, they have too many pieces in certain spots, right?
Yeah.
And pieces that other teams would love to have. And I don't know if it's ownership telling Mozeliak what to do. I don't know if it's Mozeliak telling, running everything himself, and Bill DeWitt trusts him to make those decisions. I don't know what it is, but the Cardinals are weirder than I've ever seen. Just with the time, and I could go through the timeline again for everybody. It started with Tyler O'Neill, and we're talking about Jordan Walker coming back when he was hitting 227 in the minors.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. I don't know.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, okay, so in the big picture, there was a whole lot going on right there in what you just talked about. The first thing that my thought
kind of went all over the place, so
that's all right.
It gives my co-host a weird footing. Like, am I stepping on a rattlesnake over here? I don't know. So I did not do a good job setting you up for success now, but. Good. Go ahead. Good luck.
No, not at all. I mean, you just talked about a lot of stuff there. And I think that for Cubs and Cardinals fans alike, I think for both of us, it's that kind of year. There's so much. And so I go back to the very first opening of what you just talked about, and butts in the seat thing. And ultimately, for you and I, it doesn't matter either, because we're fans. And that's the core of being a fan. I don't care how lousy my team is. I'm still going to support them, and I'm going to go out there and cheer for them. And I will never. This is one difference that I have than maybe some other people that are baseball fans or professional league fans. I'm never going to go sit in the stands and boo my team. Yeah. I won't boo my own team. I won't be the guy wearing a paper bag over my head, I don't know. Is that still a thing? They used to do that. Are they wearing paper bags over their heads in Oakland?
I watched. There's probably some guy in Oakland doing that. I mean, that's a whole other thing we could talk to Matty Kiwoom about. Who, by the way, he's coming. He's
awesome. That's awesome. Anyway, we got special guests coming today. But so here's the statistic that I pulled up, Seth, because in all of the things that we're talking about, I think that the one thing that we really haven't talked about yet this year, and being 56 games into the season, 56 games into the season, I think at some point we really need to do a deep dive into this. But let me give you some statistics that I found from teamrankings.com. Okay. Non-divisional records this season. Who's in last place versus other non-divisional teams? The Oakland A's, of course. They're 8-24 against non-divisional teams. Kansas City is second to last, 12-28. Chicago White Sox are third to last, 11-24. And guess who's fourth to last in all of Major League Baseball in non-divisional games?
Is it the Cardinals?
The St. Louis Cardinals. They are 16-24 versus non-divisional opponents. Then just kind of going up the line without, talking records. Detroit is above the Cardinals. San Diego, Washington, Cincinnati, Seattle, the Mets, Minnesota, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Colorado, Philadelphia, and then the Cubs, who are 22-23 against non-divisional opponents. So the Cubs are about in the middle of the pack against those, but there's a lot more non-divisional games being played this year. And that's something that I think the casual fan has yet to comprehend. Like, they did all these rule changes, but this might be the biggest story of what's happening in Major League Baseball this year that's not really being talked about. At least I'm not seeing it being talked about a lot, other than, oh, hey, I get to see Wander Franco play at Wrigley, or I get to see, Shohei Ohtani, or I get to see, people are talking about it in regards to that kind of thing. But in terms of how it's impacting divisional races and records and all of that sort of thing, I don't hear it being talked about a lot.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that the Central Division has been this like force field of, have you ever seen, it's like a Stephen King story or TV show where they have, it's like the dome, like there's a dome that protects them from all the outside forces, right? So the NL Central is this dome that the Cardinals were living in, the Cubs were living in, the Pirates, since all these teams were just living in the Central Division dome. And they're like, oh, it's really nice out here. It's really great to play in this dome. Like, it's really nice to beat up on the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Cincinnati Reds and all these teams that we can just kick the shit out of. And now now Rob Manfred's come along and says, nope, you don't get this dome. We're taking it away. And the Cardinals are like, what? We don't get to play the Pirates 50 times a year, even though we can't beat the Pirates? Like, what is going on? Like, why? So what you're saying is that the NL Central has done so much injustice to teams like the Cardinals. They've lulled them into this false sense of security. Like, oh, we're good. We're really good. Look at how good we are. We're the best. And it turns out that when you start to play these other good teams in these other places that's not in the dome, you're not that good. You're not that good.
Hey, I love the Midwest in the summer, but we might be learning something about the National League Central. However, I do have to say this. When I'm looking at these non-divisional standings this year, who right in the middle of the pack, I talked about the Cubs being there. Milwaukee is just above the Cubs in terms of that order, and just above them, the Boston Red Sox. So the Red Sox in non-divisional games are 22-20. The Brewers are 24-23, and the Cubs are 22-23. So there's that group of teams that are lingering kind of right in the middle. They're kind of splitting with non-divisional opponents. But then there are other teams like the Cardinals who are really tanking. against the non-divisional opponent.
Yeah. I hope I'm sure he knows that. But speaking of Red Sox, this man, he doesn't really need an introduction, but I'll give him an introduction anyway. He's the host of the Trade God Show on the Player Profiler network. You should check that out. You can follow him on Twitter at Matty Kiwoom, Kiwoom. He's the only man whose nickname is harder to pronounce than his real name. It's Matty Kiwoom. Hey, whoa. What's going on, man?
Guys, you can also add me another nickname, Mr. Wonky Wi-Fi. But we're back, baby. We're here.
Yeah, so we were just talking about your Red Sox and how these non-divisional games are affecting like all these other, like the Cardinals, for instance. My Cardinals are terrible against all these other divisions. So how is that impacting the Red Sox too at all? Or, I mean, well, I haven't checked the standings today, but if the Red Sox were to play in the NL Central, you guys would be sitting pretty right now. You'd probably be close to in first place. So how are these non-divisional games affecting the Red Sox, do you think?
The Red Sox, their issue, it's whether it's in division, out of division, it's that they can put together like a string of some really quality wins, and then they just, let's bring in the Cincinnati Reds and lose 2 of 3 and barely hold on from getting swept.
Oh, so you're losing to the Reds too, then?
That's the frustrating thing with this team is, they can go out west and look good on the West Coast and beat up a couple of these teams, and they can actually steal some games from the Blue Jays or the Orioles, and then, like I said, they lose to the Reds or whoever else. It's just they're this super streaky up and down team. But I mean, that's kind of what we thought they'd be going into the season. So they're really just proving to be exactly who we thought they were.
Gotcha.
Isn't that the truth? Like, it's funny that you say that, Matty, and welcome to the show, by the way. It's great to meet you.
Same.
But isn't that that's like what we're all talking about? Like everybody seems to be talking about their teams right now and going, yeah, we're finding out that we are who we thought we'd be. And it's kind of everybody's middle of the road. I mean,
yeah.
And maybe it's just because it's that point in the season or something like that. But I wonder if this balanced schedule is what they're calling it, right? The balanced schedule isn't just balancing things out for everyone. It's going to make every team a contender in the end of it all.
Yeah, and that's what the MLB is striding for, what the NFL has kind of provided, which is parity. Leaving all these fan bases with hope most of the season. They pushed back the trade deadline in hopes of these teams sticking to their, preseason plans of trying to win. And that's what they're looking like. I mean, you look throughout the standings, even the Rays, who, I mean, what did they start off 24-0 or something crazy? They still haven't hit their 20 losses, but they're kind of, 6-4 in their last 10. So it seems like everyone's just kind of playing, ups and downs, and we're going to have a lot of teams still vying for playoff spots come August, even September, maybe.
And we've expanded the playoffs this year too.
Oh yeah.
Right. We can't forget about that. I mean, there are so many changes in Major League Baseball this year that it's almost hard to track them all.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
And they keep coming. There's still more to come, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw DH. The DH was massive. I think we were all kind of fans of that because as a fantasy baseball player, you love that because you want all these dudes swinging it and not having to worry about your pitchers hurting their obliques because they were taking some practice cuts,
Yeah. So what do you make of these like all the rule changes? Do you like them, like the pitch clock and Mike has a whole thing about the big bases. Like Mike thinks that the big bases have changed the game forever in not a good way. Like you remember, because he thinks like the measurements are off now. It's like it's not 90 feet anymore. Or did you back up the base to make it 90 feet? Like these are Mike. I think Mike, if you let him, would come out to Wrigley Field every day with the tape measure just to see if the bases are 90 feet and to see if the bases are the appropriate size.
All I'm saying is asterisk everything in the record book. Asterisk everything.
The big base era is here. You got the steroid era, the dead ball era, and the big base era is now amongst us. But I mean, I never thought of that until 2.5 seconds ago, because it doesn't look like the dimensions of the field has changed. So yeah, if you take something that's this big and you make it bigger, you're cutting the distance in between of which the players have to run. So I would have to imagine, if it's 90 feet, maybe it's like 89 points, whatever. It has to be, because those bases are noticeably bigger. But it is, I mean, for the baseball, executives that voted for this and fought for this, you are seeing a ton of kids out there running. You're seeing a lot of different fast-paced kind of trying to steal bags and stuff, which is what they're trying to do. But even the rule change, I love the pitch clock. I don't think there's going to be many complaints with the pitch clock. I think in the preseason when we saw, remember spring training when there was like a stretch of a weekend where we saw like a game end on a violation. We saw like someone with bases loaded and one out strike out due to the violation. We were like, this violation is going to be brutal. And it hasn't really been that bad. We see a violation from time to time, but there hasn't been a big game that's rested upon, backing out with 8 seconds left or whatever it is. So I think the pitch clock's worked. Times are down. Overall, what I've really liked, it's not even a rule change so much. It's now that because of these rule changes, the analytics side, they're not saying grip it, rip it, 3 true outcomes. The 3 true outcomes is what was going to kill baseball. Strikeout, walks, Ks. Too boring. When you're at the game, you see a home run, but then you sit still because there's no action. The fielders get stale. And for the true baseball fans, I know they're trying to capture new ones, but the true baseball fans love diving plays. They love turning two. They know all the nuances of the game, and they love it. So getting more of that high-paced kind of just action is good. And then we're already seeing guys go to the pro, use the approach where I'm going to get a single. I mean, I don't know if you guys talked about Jordan Walker yet, but that whole thing with him going down to hit more fly balls, I think they're being a little bit more okay with him just hitting the ball hard. Because these guys, baseball's been played for hundreds of years, and they didn't care about launch angles. Babe Ruth wasn't in the cage trying to dip his elbow so he can get his launch angle. He hit the ball hard. Even as recently as Miguel Cabrera was a guy who didn't necessarily need to just hit the ball in the air. He could hit the ball hard, and he was really, really good. So I think that we are seeing a philosophy change because of the rules, and I think more than anything, that's the best part of everything that we've seen kind of morph over the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, no, I you talk to my wife, and I know this is going to drive Mike Jones nuts because he's a baseball purist. But you talked to my wife and I we went to the second game of the season for the Cardinals, and she just wanted. It wasn't just her; it was everybody there was talking about. Oh my God, this only took 2.5 hours. This is and their reaction is, oh, this is awesome. Because anyway, casual baseball fans are loving this pitch clock.
Oh, yeah.
I tell you, it's for them, and the problem Mike has with it. Well, Mike, what's your problem with the pitch clock?
Listen, okay, slowly but surely first of all, get off my lawn. It's the beauty of baseball, man. I went to a minor league game the other night. I don't know that I've told you about this, Seth. I went to see the Burlington Bees play. I mentioned this in the Beat the Streak thing. Yeah. And we won the seat upgrade. We got to sit on top of the first base dugout. My wife got to go try to catch chickens with a bucket in between innings. I mean, it was fantastic.
Minor league baseball, the best.
We won the 50-50 drawing, and the game took 3 hours and 15 minutes. I mean, it might have been 3.5 hours. I don't know, because there was no pitch clock. And it was a beautiful night, and I had too many – by the way, this is kind of an aside, but the best ballpark fare that you can find anywhere in the country is in Burlington, Iowa at Community Field. It's called the Lippy Dog. Chicken lips are a thing in Southeast Iowa. Chicken lips. It's a Lippy Dog. It's a chicken breast strip in buffalo sauce, not any buffalo sauce, a very specific kind of buffalo sauce, smothered in blue cheese dressing. Now, if you can sit here and listen to me talk about the Lippy Dog, you can sit for 3.5 to 4 hours at a ballpark talking to your neighbor about whatever you want to talk about and just enjoy the game. Thank you. Now, live and in person, maybe I'm backtracking a little bit on the pitch clock. There is a lot more action. It makes things a lot more exciting, in terms of hits and that kind of thing. But I think that ownership, we have yet to see what ownership and management is going to do with guys like Jordan Walker in regards to the pitch clock. When a guy, we've talked about on this show before, when a guy goes into a slump, we're going to send him down like we did Jordan Walker. Are we going to continue to talk about launch angles and things like that? We've got a guy on the Cubs, Nicky Madrigal, who got sent down. He is terrorizing AAA baseball right now. He is ripping the cover off the ball in AAA. How do you keep a guy like that down there? So there's elements of all of this that I think play into even the analytics and the Moneyball aspect of things that have yet to even be discovered.
Yeah, once we get closer to the deadline, these players that are being sent down, could they be sought after via trade? I mean, Madrigal, he's not going to all of a sudden develop a home run stroke. That's not his game. That wasn't his game when he was in college, when he batted like right around 400. I think it was Oregon State. He's a good player, and he can handle multiple positions in the infield. So if the guys are just going to send them, teams are just going to send these guys down. If I'm another team, I might start lurking around and say, I could use that player.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I don't. It's an interesting, like, looking at, just to kind of put a bow on that, like all these rule changes and stuff, like with the pitch clock. You'd think that, just to add to your point, like teams would be. I'm sure there is a team right now calling the St. Louis Cardinals about players like Luke and Baker, or like guys that they're not using, because the Cardinals just have a logjam at so many spots and they can't use all these guys. And with these rule changes, the stolen base percentages are up. So you'd think that would incentivize some teams to, build their team a little bit differently. It's like, let's bring back 1982 Cardinal baseball, please. Like, that was exciting. Whitey ball, steal more bases, which I don't know why the Cardinals don't do that more. So it might provide teams, like smaller market teams, an opportunity, like the Royals, the Athletics, to start, like, do what they used to do. It was like, go out and get athletes and then develop them into baseball players, So, but Mike and I like to talk, and we can talk about Jordan Walker a little bit later, but I want to ask you this question, Matty. Is a lot of what we do on this show is complain. Mostly me. A lot of Mike's more optimistic than me about the front offices and what's going on. Like the Cardinals, don't get me started. It's a whole thing is a disaster. I talked about how the NL Central was a dome, like the Stephen King dome that was protecting them from the outside monsters, like, the AL East, everybody in the AL East. And I guess the AL Central is pretty bad too, but do you have like, what's your opinion of the Red Sox front office, and how would you assess some of the moves they've made up to this point?
I have a massive love-hate relationship when it comes to the Red Sox front office, because when Chaim Bloom came into town, what he did. I because I love like fantasy sports, I get like super interested in the team building facets of the game, what they did in their previous team, kind of their path to the Red Sox, if you will. Chaim Bloom checked all the boxes. He developed their development for their prospects in Tampa. And what it seemed was he was going to be the next Andrew Friedman. And what I meant by that is a guy who could win in a small market, then given the purse of a big market, was just going to go bananas. You're going to see him live his full potential. He's come up here, and, a lot of the Red Sox fans can be, you guys have big, passionate fan bases. So how crazy these people can get. They said, what are we going to turn into? The Tampa Bay Red Sox, the Boston Rays North? And everyone's like, no, relax. That's not how it's going to be. Cut to 3 years later, that's exactly how he's operating this team. I personally cannot stand it. You know, I've seen 04, 07, 13, 18. I've seen the team builders come in and out. I've seen how they've had a chance to win, and I just don't know if he has the backbone to go seize a title when it's in front of him. He's a great talent evaluator. He makes good low-key trades. Last year at the deadline, he brought in Tommy Pham, who was pretty decent. Year before that, he got Kyle Schwarber, super cheap for a middle reliever that I don't even think's in the game anymore. And he was magnificent all the way through the ALCS. But at the end of the day, you still need to decide, hey, listen, we're a contender, so let's go out. We're going to overpay. That's the nature of the game. We're going to get the starter. We're going to get the big dog ace or the number 4 hitter that we're missing. We're not just going to keep beating around the bush and kind of tiptoeing around the pool. No, sometimes you just got to dive in, and that's what I think he lacks. So, to make a short story long here, I do not believe that he has what it takes to win here in Boston as a team builder. I like him. If he was like the number 2 in terms of the general managing baseball operations, that whole kind of weird thing now, that's changed over time too. It used to be the general manager. Now it's the baseball ops and the operations of head management district believer. I don't know. There's all these titles now. But if he was number 2, I would love Bloom because he's definitely has a good eye for young players. They've done well in the draft. He does really well at scraping kind of the rejects from other rosters that can help ours. But when it comes to winning in the AL East, you need to sometimes overpay. You need to have a little bit more of that Dave Dombrowski, that dog in you to go get it done. I don't think he has that at all.
Ditto Jed Hoyer, Seth.
Yeah.
That's you just described John Mozeliak, man.
Yeah.
Like it's like that for the last 3 years. You know, obviously the Cardinals, and jokes aside with the NL Central, how bad the NL Central has been. Like the last 3 years, you look at the Cardinals starting rotation, and I said it at the time is when Max Scherzer was a free agent. You know, he was originally drafted by the Cardinals out of high school. He went to Mizzou. If there's anybody that you're gonna overpay, and he's a freaking dog. Like I know the efficiency metrics or whatever you want to call them in baseball. That's what we say in fantasy football. But the spin rate or whatever, he's not having the greatest season. It kind of looks like he's aging. You're kind of seeing some chinks in the armor for Max Scherzer this year. But at the time, that made so much sense. And apparently the Cardinals were not interested at all. And I could not understand why. I kind of do understand why. It came with a hefty price tag. It just feels like that's the move that you needed to make to solidify yourself as a World Series contender. But yet they'll pay Adam Wainwright, Mr. AARP, 41 years old, 17 and a half. They'll pay him $17.5 million to come back. You know, they'll pay and I love Yachty. They'll give him a $20 million contract to come back. It's like St. Louis is so invested in. Don't get me wrong, I'm a fan. Part of me loves it. Part of me loves the fact that they will keep guys until the very end. But you know
the
Bill
Belichick.
End. You know Bill Belichick well enough. If Bill Belichick were running the St. Louis Cardinals, do you think Adam Wainwright would be on this team? No. Like it's just
maybe though that he did keep Brian Hoyer around unnecessarily.
Yeah, but
he does love his guys.
That's true, but but Adam Wainwright, I mean, he's not the Brian Hoyer's backup.
Brian Hoyer's there to be like a quarterback's coach on the field. Wainwright is being tasked with taking the ball every 5th day to try to win ball games. It's a lot different.
And I hope he can turn it around, but it's so sad right now. Like it's oh my God. It's like right now, and I hope it changes, and I'm the biggest Adam Wainwright fan in the world, but right now it's kind of like that guy. I mean, people forget that, and that people say this, you know, it's been said on St. Louis radio. I think Red Shandy's took Bob Gibson out of the rotation towards the end of his career. That's Bob Gibson, right?
Yeah, you can do it to him, you can do it to anybody.
So we'll see what they do, but right now it's a big old wolf with Adam Wainwright. I mean, His velocity is like at 86 on his fastball. His curveball's still good, okay, but anything like in the strike zone's getting pounded, man. Like it's just it's sad. But that's exactly. I mean, the Cardinals have all these guys, and they needed to make a trade like 2 years ago, and like our prospects are great, but it's just like we've needed that final piece, and they're sitting at 25 and 33 right now, so the last place in the Central Division.
Yeah,
but it's crazy. Like they're Ken Rosenthal still thinks if I can speak, still thinks that they're going to win the division. So
they could.
Seth, just how'd that Marcell Ozuna trade go?
Don't get me started.
I'm sorry, I had to drop that in there. But hey, the Cubs.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
We were so happy when they made that trade too. Like all the fans, like even myself, well, look, that was a terrible trade, and it was. I mean, every time your team makes a trade for a slugger like that, like potential, like everybody thought he was going to be. Originally, we had Stanton. Like originally, they had a deal for Stanton, and then Stanton didn't want to come to St. Louis because he's too good for us, apparently. But yeah,
that would have been a worse trade, Phil. That would have been a worse trade.
I knew I could get him going, Matty.
Yeah, well, just think Sandy Alcantara, and I watched Sandy Alcantara pitch for the Cardinals. That's a real thing that he was a September call up, and I watched that happen, and Zach Gallen. But anyway, I digress. They look pretty good right now, the rotation.
Yeah, maybe they have a chance to bring him back. The Marlins aren't doing all that well. Maybe they decide to flip him, but they are above 500, so maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah. So you guys are talking about the big signing and going out and paying the big dollars for it. And it seems like all of our teams are kind of operating in this no man's land of, are we going to be contenders, and are we going to be? And at least Boston and Chicago, at least we know we have the money to do this kind of thing, right? Like, so we're building hotel. I mean, I don't know if you've been to Wrigleyville lately, Matty, but
no, but I'm going in September.
Awesome. We're building hotels and motels and sports books and all of these kinds of things. And I think the idea behind that is make more revenue so we can buy more players and be able to do what you just mentioned a second ago. We signed the guy Jameson Taillon, who got his first win for the Cubs just last night in San Diego. He pitched 5.2 innings, gave up 3 hits, 1 run, 1 earned, 3 strikeouts. He's making let's see here, $2.25 million a year, and I think we signed him to like a 3-year deal or something like that, so that he could come out and be like 1-6 or something like that for us. Yeah. I mean, and that was our big signing supposedly. But thankfully, we've got guys like Marcus Stroman. The news is good on Justin Steele's potential injury from the other day. He had left the game with forearm tightness, which every fan in Chicago went, because he's already had Tommy John surgery once. But I think that you're right, though, in terms of all 3 of our teams. Where's the big signing now? I can look over at St. Louis, however, and go, they had some big signings on the corners, right? I mean, it's not like they're doing nothing over there. There are some big names that have come to St. Louis over the course of the past 5 years, and they've been relatively big signings, and somehow they got away with a cheap one, and I can never remember which corner it was, Goldschmidt or Arenado.
Well, you could say both, but it's the Arenado trade was ridiculous.
Steal.
Yeah, and then somebody, and then was it Goldschmidt or Arenado that just signed for a pittance?
Yeah. Well, right? It was his opt-in. He could have opted out of the deal, and it was like he opted in at 5 years, $122 million.
Yeah.
And if you would have, that was before all this free agency craziness, right? With Bogarts and all. So if he would have opted out, he would for sure have basically doubled his money, probably.
Yeah, probably.
It's crazy. Like, yeah, I don't know how. Like, I guess if you want to make a case for Mozeliak keeping his job, like somehow he made that happen. I don't think
Right.
as like magician, like
well, and in MVP caliber years too, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, so it's not like the Cardinals have done nothing,
yeah.
But I think when you look at the Bo Sox and the Cubbies, it's like, who's our big name signing in the last? I'm not sure. I can't really put a finger on that. I can name a couple guys in St. Louis, is all I'm saying, that would be considered a huge haul elsewhere.
Yeah, for sure. The Red Sox did sign Trevor Story to a pretty significant contract, but even how that played out, I don't know if it counts, because he waited and waited and waited, and it was almost until Trevor Story was willing to kind of be super flexible. He was all of a sudden willing to go to second base. He took way less than the market was originally calling for at the beginning of free agency. So it was almost like, oh, the price is now in my wheelhouse. Let us make the move. Whereas I think sometimes you just need to go, that's my guy. Let's go get him.
Yeah.
That permeates through the entire building. Winning is a culture, and it starts with even the executives. When the players know that if they need a reliever, they'll get one. If they need a number 9 hitter, they'll get one. If they need a lefty, they'll get one. So once the ownership and the general manager go out and get their guy, the players goes, okay, they mean business. Now it's time to take care of business on the field.
Yeah, it's interesting because the Cubs, in Cubs fandom, I could say a lot of the same. Dansby Swanson, we needed a shortstop. We needed an everyday shortstop. Nico Horners, we signed him, extended him. Ian Happ, we've got him. Suzuki, I can go down the line of guys in Chicago that it'd be hard to argue. Well, management's just not trying to win. Really, Cody Bellinger. I mean, some of these are reclamation projects, like you mentioned earlier, Matty. Like Chicago seems to have a thing for that too, especially in the bullpen. That's where it seems to be, and it's kind of irritating for Cubs fans this year because they seem to be letting us down. However, in last night's game, and I know it's a one-game sample, we might have found a little bit of a sweet spot in Adbert Alzolay and Mark Leiter Jr. coming through, and Brandon Hughes, throwing some middle relief. So that was kind of fun to listen to and watch. But in the big picture, you're right. We got to get who is that guy? What do we need right now? We need in Chicago. We need a first baseman.
Right.
That's what we need in Chicago. Like Matt Mervis, love Matt Mervis, love the nicknames, what he did at AAA and all that kind of thing. But he ain't the answer. It doesn't seem. Trey Mancini ain't the answer. I mean, we need a first baseman. Who are we going to get? And it could be argued that we need somebody at the other corner too. Is Patrick Wisdom the answer? I don't know. I don't know if he is or not. I know it's probably not Nick Madrigal, although, he's batting over 500 and was one hit shy of the cycle at AAA the other night. I mean, but he's probably not the answer at the bigs either. We need to sign those Arenado Goldschmidt type of guy. Rizzo, I never forgive him for getting rid of him. But, those are the kind of guys that we need right now. And the question is, are we going to go out and get them like you mentioned?
Here's a question for you guys. If you have the opportunity to go get a guy that like you can consider like an MVP caliber player like Goldschmidt, Arenado, like a Freddie Freeman was trade, Mookie Betts. I'm sure that was a trade that hurt your soul a little bit. Matty Kiwoom.
Yes, yeah. It'll never stop hurting.
So I have a philosophy, and I'm not going to give my answer. Maybe the answer based on the premise of the question, but I digress. If you have the opportunity to go get that caliber of player, do you just say, we got to go do it no matter what the cost? Or the Cubs and the Cardinals and the Red Sox are all in this, I would say even the Cubs. I mean, the Cubs aren't terrible. I mean, the Cubs are okay. But do you have to go do that given the randomness of MLB prospects, or does situation dictate that?
I think situation definitely dictates it, because you don't want to give away prospects if you don't feel like your winning window is open. But if your winning window is either open now or we're going to be open within the year, we've seen how many times have we seen a prospect haul go from team A to team B, and everyone goes, wow, what an overpayment for that superstar, only to find out 3 years later that those prospects, maybe one is in the big leagues, the other two are still putzing around the minors or even out of baseball. So I think you can't just do it all the time. You don't want to have that burn the minor leagues down mentality forever. But when it warrants it, when you feel like you can win, you got to go for it. And specifically, I don't think it's going to happen, but what point do these teams start banging down the door to try to get Shohei Ohtani away from the Angels before he's a free agent? He's hitting free agency after the end of the year. He's not signing with that franchise. There's no way he can stick around. At what point are these teams just start throwing too good to be true offers at the Angels?
Right now, all depends
on the window, right?
Yeah,
I mean
everything.
When you talk about the window, Matty, nobody probably in this room right now feels it as recently as I do in terms of the Cubs. Like in 2010, might have been a little bit earlier than that. I turned to my wife and I said, listen, 2015, we're going to win the World Series. You could see it developing. 5 years prior, you could see it developing. And so that window, we knew when that window was going to happen, like based on who was in the minors and all that kind of thing. And it's a really tangible, I was shocked because we haven't experienced that a lot. Yeah. I was shocked at how tangible that feeling was. Like you could see it on the horizon. You were like, oh my gosh, we're going to have a chance. This is going to be, it's actually going to be the year. We're not just saying that.
Yeah.
It's coming. It's going to happen. And it did. So I really feel what you're saying there in terms of, that winning window. Is Shohei Ohtani going to be within our window? That's who's going to end up going after and pursuing him.
Yeah.
So who is that right now? That's the question to me.
It's the Red Sox. I'm going to say it. It's the Red Sox. I'm putting it in the universe. It's the Red Sox.
I've already put it out there for the Cubs. So.
Of course you have to. But, here in Boston, it's funny because he signed that massive deal, New Balance. Their headquarters is here in Boston. They signed Yoshida Matsusaka, who's like one of his best friends in Japan. And every time that the Angels and Red Sox play, you see them kind of, obviously giving their hugs and their pleasantries. And everyone's like, ooh, he's coming to Boston.
We do have Seiya Suzuki and Wright
there it is.
over here. He's telling good things to him about Chicago. So
he's like, you can go right up to Iowa. You can get that lippy dog, my friend, during an off day. It's the best.
Yeah, we used to have So Taguchi, but that's all I can't think of
Taguchi,
a Japanese, but I remember Taguchi. But so it's to Shohei Ohtani. I mean, you said it. I think the Angels would be foolish not to see if they could get the ultimate offer for him. I think their two options are really, if they bring him back, that is just a move for the fans. It's like trying to put butts in seats. That's it. So either you give him a blank check or you say you start making phone calls and say, okay, how many prospects, how much can you give? And I'm just gonna say it. The Cardinals got some pretty good prospects, and they could. That would be though. That would have to be you're giving up Jordan Walker, like that would probably be the starting point. Is Walker plus?
Yeah, you're giving up the haul.
Ohtani. Yeah,
you're giving up everything for him, but he's worth it. I mean, he's gonna sign the first ever $500 million contract. I mean, it's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which it's not going to happen in St. Louis, but as much as I would like to, as much as it would make sense, and I pitched it on this show before, and I think every fan base is kind of is doing this right now. I mean, we're doing it right now. Is think of the Cardinals, right? They need that one more piece to be a contender. He can pitch. I mean, he hasn't pitched great lately, but he can be in the rotation. He can hit. He can play outfield. I mean, he could solve so many problems for you. The biggest problem, obviously, is the huge contract that Mozeliak likely and DeWitt would, just not want to give out.
It's going to be crazy.
So, but if your Windows now, I don't
Ohtani's
know,
this
like,
weird. He's kind of weird in that too. Like financially, the investment makes all the sense in the world because his ability to bring dollars to your club is one of one in all of sports. I mean, you pay him $500 million over however amount it's going to be. He is going to bring a massive fan base. I mean, we still see the effects. The Daisuke craze when he came to the Red Sox was massive. I mean, you still see a lot of fans in Japan repping Red Sox stuff because of Daisuke, and that stuff permeates if you can get one of those like generational talent players.
So that raises the big question. One of our regular listeners, Meet the Mets, commented in the comments there that he believes that Ohtani's going to be a Mets. Mets? Is it a Mets or a Mets?
Be a Metropolitan. You got to bring up the whole world. A Metropolitan. Right? We have the same issue with the Red Sox. You don't say a Red Sox. It's hard. Right. It's a Red Sox. It's weird.
Yeah.
He ain't going to the Mets. They overspent this year and they're not having good results. This is if they didn't do all this unnecessary spending to just be 2 games over 500, they would be right in the thick of it. They have one of the most wealthy owners in the league. They have a big market, but because of all that they did this past year, I don't think so. I think the Mets will be priced out.
He does remind us as well that they have friends. They have friends in New York. Yes, he's got some friends in New York.
I mean, you can't count them out. Cohen's got so much money, and it is a big market team. I would much rather see him go to the Mets and the Yankees. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh gosh, anybody but the evil empire.
Well, Mike, is it that time of the show?
Well, if my dog would stop barking at the mailman, it might be. Sorry about that, listener.
Maddie's not going to know what the hell is going on here, but we're just going to do it, and we're going to. I'm not going to give Maddie any hints as to what's going to happen right now. All right, you ready? You got it. Do you have it, Mike?
I'm ready. I'm preparing it right now.
I put mine over on the bookshelf, so I might have to run after I do the jingle. So
sure, you're going to do the jingle.
Well, yeah, I have to do. I mean, it's like one of the greatest things of the show that's ever happened.
I do want you to know, however, that I am working on securing some professionals for this matter. But go ahead.
Wait a minute. What? Professionals?
Taking it away. Uh-oh.
You're gonna get rid of me for a professional?
Listen, there definitely would be some kind of humor in having a professional singer do the jingle. That's all I'm saying.
We'll have to talk about this. We'll have to talk about this because I don't. That's part of the. I mean, and you Meet the Mets or the chat. If there's anybody in the chat, let us know if you want a professional. Because when I think of professional singer, I think of like an opera singer in a soprano singing this, and I don't know if that's the kind of thing we're looking for. Or I don't know if you what I mean. There's so many details that we need to iron out. But anyway, I'll just do it. I'll just go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say there's details to be ironed out, and I don't know, whether or not I can even get the guy that I really want to get. But I think that there would be some kind of humor in doing it. That's all I'm saying.
All right, fine.
Here's jingle.
Okay, you ready?
But wouldn't I mean, I think Ed Sheeran would be incredible. I mean, if we could get Ed Sheeran,
of course, we could do
Ed Sheeran. You mean the less handsome version of Seth?
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
It'd be similar, but not quite.
Yeah,
dude, I could fill 2 hours of people coming up to me and saying, "Oh my God, you look like." You know who you look like? It's like I don't know, Joey from Friends. I don't know, but it's at this point. I have definitely a second career in Las Vegas as an Ed Sheeran impersonator if I want it.
Yeah, I was gonna go Cole
if
Calhoun.
That's even.
You look like Cole Calhoun.
Oh, cool, Cole Calhoun.
I can see.
Which,
Cole
by the
Calhoun.
way,
could be on the. He could be
coming to God,
Louis or something.
Oh yeah, he's probably our big signing. That's gonna, we're gonna sign.
He
him
made
to
a swing change, boys. He made a swing change.
I remember, and this is I'll swear we're getting to it. Mike already interrupted it, so it's really his fault. But I was sitting in, because when I moved to Kansas City, I thought, you guys have a major league stadium like 20 minutes down the road. I'm going to go to a game. Couldn't convince anybody to go to this game with me. Albert Pujols was playing for the Angels. I wanted to go see him. So it was cold. It snowed. And there were drunk people in the left field stands giving the worst heckling I've ever heard in my entire life. I'm not joking. And Cole Calhoun was playing in right field that day. I was sitting in, did I say left field? I meant right field. Okay. Right field stands. Sorry, I know that changes the whole story. But I was sitting like 20 rows up from these people, and I'm not joking. This was the heckle, all right? And I've heard some bad heckling, but this is the worst heckling I've ever heard. Hey, Calhoun, you suck. And the guys, I'm not joking. The guys turn to each other in between, like, what are we going to say? Like, what should we say? There's no plan. And then as soon as they say it, they're like, ha ha. Yeah. And then they gave each other a high five. And there's nobody. It started snowing. Like, there's nobody in the stand. It is one of the most hilarious, perfect moments I've ever seen at a ballpark that I did not know I was going to have. And then I was ashamed of myself because I left early.
Oh my!
You should have told that whole story and left that part out.
I know. Well, it started snowing. I couldn't feel my feet.
Fair.
You're dead to me.
Yeah, I know. I've never been so ashamed.
Welcome to the
myself.
very last episode of Long Live Baseball.
Yeah, I was probably like the last person to leave, though. There was not many people there, but
you know what the other problem was? You're sitting in right field sucks. Everybody knows that. But go ahead.
Yeah, that's my bad. That's probably why those bad hecklers. I've seen some bad heckling at Wrigley Field too, just so you know. Yeah. Directed at Tyler O'Neill. I mean, I've seen the cup snake get dropped. Is the cup snake still a thing, Mike?
Yeah, it's still a thing. Yeah, other ball clubs are imitating, but none like at Wrigley.
I still can't believe
sing the jingle. Sing the jingle for crying out loud.
I still can't believe that the Cardinals didn't come up with the bird bath. I can't believe that the Baltimore Orioles just came up with that idea. We need to be more creative, okay? Like, fuck the burger phone, okay? Like, what is that?
And like, there it is, folks. There it is. The first F-bomb ever dropped on Long Live Baseball.
The burger phone is the stupidest.
It's about the burger phone.
Oh, sorry, Meet the Mets fan. I thought that would be funny. I was going for comedic. I was going like, because the thing about the F word is that if you never use it and then one day you use it like I did, it can enhance the comedy. You know,
yeah, like Richard Pryor.
Except I'm nowhere near Richard Pryor. Like, I'm the opposite of Richard Pryor. But I don't think it worked though. I don't think that worked. Like it was a big chance that I just took, and I don't think it worked. So I think I struck out there. But anyway, the burger phone is lame. The
burger phone stinks.
Yeah. F the burger phone. All right. The jingle 10 minutes later. It would be hilarious if you interrupted me during the jingle. It's the Dixon's Baseball Dictionary segment of the show where Mike pulls out his dictionary.
That's the jingle?
That's the jingle, baby.
Well, this isn't a family show. That was as bad as the
Matty, I got to tell you, and I keep telling Seth, he's got to find the first time he sang the jingle. Because first time he sang the jingle, I think we just spent the next 5 minutes on air laughing and crying. I'm pretty sure.
I can imagine that.
So if you're not familiar, it's a baseball dictionary, and it's written by this guy. Look at this guy. You see him?
Yeah.
Look at that pose. All right. Look at that pose.
That is the guy who would write a dictionary about baseball.
Like, I'm so curious as to the decision behind that. It's like, you know what you should do, Paul? is you should have this shot where your glasses are not on top of your head, but not on your face. They should just be like on your forehead. It's almost like the glasses are like, please wear me. Like they're just sliding down. You've got a pen right here. And you're doing this kind of weird half smile. Like you're just starting to laugh at a joke.
He's just letting you know.
And he kind of looks like Ron White, doesn't he? Do you know Ron White, the comedian? Maybe you don't. I don't know.
Well, let's collectively turn, and Matty, we're going to have to get you a copy of the Paul Dixon Baseball Dictionary for being a guest on the show. Page 399. Originally, you see, we do this thing called show notes because we try to keep ourselves on track, and
never works. By the way,
no.
Mike always derails the show somehow. Last time it was about hot dogs. It's a hot dog, a sandwich. And there's a video on our channel. I was dealing with technical difficulties. Google Chrome. It's still a thing. And if anybody in the chat, like Meet the Mets fan knows, he supports the F-bombs, by the way. Oh, maybe it did work.
Oh, okay. It landed.
So by the way, yeah, somebody was laughing. It certainly wasn't, not that we're monetized, but we get demonetized here. But what was I saying?
Yeah, Mike's always derailing the show, says the guy who just derailed the show.
Yeah. No, Mike's always derailing the show, and I have to get it back on track. So sometimes, it takes effort to sort of do this. And I was dealing with technical difficulties with the Google Chrome. The Google Chrome doesn't like my computer. I've tried everything. I've tried deleting the browser, reinstalling it. I've followed all the nerd tips, and I'm on I don't even know what this is. What is this, like DuckDuckGo or like some kind of weird browser that I have to use now? Like Microsoft Edge is what it's called. Like nobody uses Microsoft Edge, but I'm using it, and it kind of sucks, but it's better than just not working at all. So anyway, I was dealing with that, and then Mike was talking about hot dogs for 10 minutes. And
Seth, nobody cares about your fantasy team, man. What are you doing?
I'm not talking about my fantasy team. I'm talking about hot dogs.
You're talking about browsers, Seth. So to bring us back, Seth, and our banter today was supposed to be about don't tell your wife, but in Spanish, I'll leave it up to you in Spanish, the word esposas, means both wife and handcuffs.
Yeah. Did you know that?
I did not know that, but it's fantastic. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would think that it would mean ball and chain, not handcuffs.
Yeah.
But
maybe that's kind of in the same ballpark.
Yeah. My mind went in a completely different perverted direction than what you went, because that makes more sense than what I was thinking. I don't.
Oh, you had that.
I don't want to go all Alan Seslowski on the show today. But
Seth says one F-bomb, and now all of a sudden his mind's in the gutter. He's all
there's no rules, baby. We've broken outside of the dome. We're not in the NL Central anymore. We have to play all the other teams.
No longer a family show, folks. Okay. Page 399.
This is the longest dictionary segment ever, but we haven't even started.
Handcuff. The H's. To hit
this on this, it is on this page.
Holy shit. Is right here, 399. Handcuff. Now,
all right. Word? Is that the real word that you chose?
That's the real word that I chose I was trying to prepare for a professional show here. And what you've done to us today could set us back. Right? Yeah. I mean, it could set us back years.
Hey.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
We are off the rails.
Now, seriously, you guys, I mean, here, I got a couple baseball fans and one in the chat here. When you think of the word handcuff, what do you think of? What's the first thing that you think of, Seth?
Now,
I'm talking about baseball related. Baseball. Whoa. Baseball related stuff.
Yeah. Jail. Baseball related. I think. honestly, God dang, I don't know, man. Honestly, like a player that you would. Well, that's fantasy though. Like a handcuff running back.
All right,
Yeah.
Matty, Seth's having a hard time. What do you think of?
I think it was when you get the ball rides in on you and you kind of take it off the hands and you flop it in for a hit.
All right. Yeah, that's the first thing that and Meet the Mets hasn't chimed in yet, but on the handcuff piece, well, maybe, I don't know, he has a few. But this is what the dictionary definition says: to hit or throw a ball so hard that a fielder cannot stop or catch it cleanly.
Oh, yeah, when you get handcuffed. Yeah, okay, yes.
Okay.
That is not the first thing that I think of. I'm like Matty, like a pitch that's inside, he really handcuffed him, jamming a hitter, like Meet the Mets fan says there. It's like, I would say that it's, similar to that, right? But according to the baseball dictionary, to hit or throw a ball so hard that a fielder cannot stop or catch it cleanly. For example, Bobby Abreu led off with a hard grounder that handcuffed second baseman Jose Vidro for an infield hit. That was used in the Baltimore Sun in June 11th, 2006. Manny Ramirez uncorked a poor throw that handcuffed second baseman Tony Fernandez, the Wisconsin State Journal, July 17th, 1997. The first use of the term was in 1920. Groh handcuffed Shannon for a single. That was in the Washington Post on April 12th. So interesting to me that it's used as a fielding term.
Yeah.
There.
And I can see it now in my head, like, kind of when the ball rides up, kind of hits them in the palm, and they kind of whoop.
Yeah.
I can now almost see that. Yeah, you got handcuffed. Okay.
Yeah. I always think of it as a hit in the hitting sense, though. Yeah. And I don't know. It's quite the long. If we read the whole thing, we'd be here for about an hour and a half. But for a pitcher, it's also an alternate for a pitcher to overwhelm a batter, or for a pitcher to hold the opposition to very few hits. Jameson Taillon handcuffed the San Diego Padres last night. You'd use it in that way too. So yeah, a multi-use term for baseball. I kind of like that. I'm going to be using that at the ballpark.
Pretty good.
All right. Good stuff. Well, Matty, do you have any? Where can the people find you, and what do you have to plug these days?
Well, not a whole lot of baseball content. I'm really more of a baseball fan these days, more than content. But if you are in the market for fantasy football stuff, go over to playerprofile.com. You can see all my stuff there. I got a show coming out, the game plan each and every Saturday, Trade Gods on Thursday. And yeah, Matty Kiwoom on Twitter. A lot of football stuff, though. Do you have
a bold prediction for the season, or do you have any how do you think your Red Sox are going to do, or something like that?
The Red Sox, I think they squeak into the playoffs, but I do not think that they make the moves necessary to win in the playoffs. And I think they're one and done. My bold prediction, though, is that Shohei Ohtani is traded before the deadline.
All right.
Good one. Hey, so Matty, just one more question for you. Do you play fantasy baseball?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Matty, nobody cares about your fantasy team.
We need for another 3 hours if you want to talk fantasy baseball. Because my first thought was, he's a Cubs guy. Let me ask you about Steele. What do they say about Steele? Because I got him on my fantasy team.
Yeah, nice.
Oh, there you go.
Hopefully he's going to miss one start, but he'll be back for the next, I think.
Yeah, they didn't even throw him in the DL, which is a good sign. It's just, these pitchers nowadays, I think if they have any type of discomfort, they shut it down. They already know.
Yep, absolutely.
Mike, what do you have to say to the people? Any final words of wisdom?
Well, here's something. This is really going off the charts on a bold prediction. We keep talking about how bad the National League Central is, and there are a couple of teams in the National League Central that are middle of the road in the balanced schedule, right? I mean, the Cardinals are way down there, but we all know that the Cardinals are better than that. They've got some work to figure out. They've just got something to figure out. I don't know what it is yet. Like, it's something in the clubhouse. It's like Seth keeps saying, but my bold prediction is, I guess if this is a prediction, is that the National League Central is not as bad as we all think they are. They're just really competitive. And so it makes them look bad. They keep beating up on each other, But like the Cubs go out and beat the Rays, they beat the Padres. They're some of the, even though they're middle of the road. So I think maybe the top 3 teams in the National League Central, and we've talked about them: the Cubs, the Brewers, and the Cardinals. That's how it's going to finish by the end of the season. That they'll be a lot more competitive than we think they are.
I like that. The Cardinals beat the Dodgers. I think I can't remember if they swept them or 2 out of 3 or something, but and the only time they played that a team like that this year. So I like that. I think that this is going to be I know I've said it probably the past 3 seasons, but there's so much heat on the Cardinals right now. I really think that they're going to make a big time trade before the trade deadline. And I think that trade is going to involve Tyler O'Neill, Dylan Carlson. Those are going to be 2. I think that you could see a package with a minor leaguer. I don't think they're really going to be into giving up Tink Hence or Gordon Graceffo, but Michael McGreevy, somebody like that, maybe a lower level prospect or 2, will headline that deal. And I really wonder, it's going to be fascinating to see what the Milwaukee Brewers do, because I wonder if the Milwaukee Brewers think that they're even the best team in the NL Central. I don't know if they are. I don't know if they can be, with Woodruff being hurt and with Corbin Burns being, apparently he's still, arbitration's a whole weird thing, but apparently the arbitration process didn't go well for him. So I can't believe that, according to him, the Brewers blamed him for their loss in the postseason, which is like, okay.
Yeah.
Like the reason you're there is because of Corbin Burns. I realize you got to do what you got to do in arbitration, but come on, guys.
Arbitration is the worst thing in sports.
Yeah, it's so stupid.
Absolutely.
But I really think that Corbin Burns could be on the move, and I don't know if there would be an interdivision trade. I don't think so. But if the Cardinals, there's not many teams can offer the kind of haul that the Cardinals could offer the Brewers. So as crazy as it sounds, Corbin Burns would solve a lot of the Cardinals' problems. And there's really not too many other starting pitchers on the market. Shane Bieber, I used to be a big Shane Bieber guy. Now you kind of see the strikeout rate has gone down, alarmingly down. Outside of the Herman Marquette, you struggle to find names. I know, I haven't been keeping up with the Rays are probably not going to trade anybody because they're a contender, but Glasnow was the big talk before the season started.
Giolito and Lynn, I think those are the 2 from the White Sox you could see move, but they haven't been great.
Yeah. Lance Lynn. I don't know if a reunion is coming, but anyway, a package involving O'Neill, Carlson, and prospects, I think, for a big time starting pitcher is definitely going to be on the table, and that would solve so many problems.
Okay, so Seth, I have 2 things, and I know we're trying to wrap up the show here, but 2 things. First of all, Burns and Bieber are both on my fantasy team, and
okay, good. I'm glad.
Nobody's going to say nobody cares about your fantasy team.
We all do, though. That's why, because you're talking to fantasy guys.
We're gonna have to start a fantasy, the Long Live Baseball fantasy league next year, and get people into it. Maybe the Mets fan can play.
Absolutely, Matty. If you're not already, join us on the Beat the Streak thing too.
Nice.
But and the second thing is the Cardinals. You're talking about the big trade, and Matty talked about the win window. When's the win window for the Cardinals?
It's right now, baby. It's right now. You have Arenado and Goldschmidt in their prime.
Contreras, you brought him in town. Yep.
Contreras is not, you got
the closer.
Even though he's, Ryan Helsley's a stud. A lot of those blown saves. You watch him pitch. Sometimes I think, oh my God, is this the best closer in baseball? He's just got so much. I think that's going to correct itself. There's some randomness to a lot of these blown saves too. And so they have the closer. Their bullpen is, I think, better than a lot of people think. They need a starting pitcher, and their offense is really good. Lars Nootbaar's good. And they got a lot of good pieces there.
Here's a prediction that I almost want to throw up in my mouth a little bit when I say this, but but what Matty said earlier about, when you need that guy, you go out and get him. and the rest of your players know then that you're serious. If that happens for the Cardinals, look out.
Yeah.
Like if that happens, then your closer goes, oh, we're serious now. Some of your other guys are like, all right, so this is the time. That the window's now, and they see it too because ownership management goes, yep, we're going to get the guy.
Yeah, and it can't be a John Lester like 2 years ago. It can't be, as much as I like Jordan Montgomery, it can't be like it's got to be like a Shane Bieber,
a frontline guy.
Yeah, like at worst, it's got to be somebody like that. So
yeah, the guy's on my fantasy team.
Nobody cares about your fantasy team.
All right, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, Matty, for joining us. It was a lot of fun. We'll have you on anytime you want to come back, man. Just let us know.
Oh yeah, next time we're gonna get it on and the internet will be pristine. I'll make sure of it.
All right, no worries at all. Thank you, everybody, and don't forget, long live baseball. Go Cardinals.
Let's go Cubs.
Matty.
Don't forget about the Red Sox.
All right. Long live baseball. Thanks, guys. See ya.
Long live baseball.
Thank you.
Hey, long live baseball,
Long
baby.
live baseball. Let's
go.
Long live baseball.
Thank you.
You got it.
Right now.
Long live baseball.